Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 5.37, The Greed of a Beast. We are back.
Hell yeah. I'm so freaking excited, guys. We're at, the end-ish of Arc 5, and, excuse me, sorry I'm gross. You won't get to see it till the next week, haha, but we are probably going to read 6.1 today as well, and I'm so freaking excited, dude. I heard it's, super long, so you guys better bring a snack next week. It's gonna be great. I don't know. How you feeling, Tan?
Aetheral Space, the original movie.
Yes! Is that what it is?
No, that's not what it is.
Oh my god. Dragon's secret brother, Dragoon.
He's like the evil brother. You abandoned me on Crestfall, and now I'm going to take revenge on the world.
I'm so excited. What happened last time? I think, not Ruth, Lily entered, sicko mode.
Yeah,
she ate her corpse of Raiju. Yeah, and she was like, I'm gonna shock you to death now. And then Garth was like, no! And then,
punched over 100 times in 10 seconds.
Yes. And then Lots wanted to go help, but, something was keeping him. I don't remember what.
He was fighting, Nail. But he offered Nail an escape. He said something about, I can give you an escape.
Oh,
from
yeah.
this, to which he
and then the other thing was, Dragon and, Dragon and Bruno/Serena were fighting the big invisible thing that I thought was an elephant, but is more like a humanoid.
It's a giant, so it was revealed at the end, sort of a giant black skeleton.
Ooh.
At the end, and there was a lot of emphasis on
It feels like a Terraria boss. Oh yeah, we're about to see the result of the scream, right?
Yes. Perhaps it
because you
be
put the scream in
beasts.
Honest question: will your different font, not just the bold, but I can see you use a different style of font, will that translate to Royal Road?
It does, though. Yes.
Yo, that's dope. All right, forgive me if my voices are off. I'm a little nasally today. It's on the ropes! Dragon cried to his friends as they rushed around it, cutting at the exposed flesh. Don't let up! He himself fired off another volley of Gemini... Wait, is it flesh or is it a skeleton? I'm confused.
So, what I was described, you can see the skeleton because the skin's still sort of translucent. So,
okay.
There's invisible skin.
Oh, I see. I see. And then its jaw snapped open, like a snake getting ready to eat a massive chunk of food. Dragon hesitated. Something was wrong. This wasn't like the other times it had roared in pain. The massive black skeleton took a deep breath and screamed. The noise was deafening, louder than anything Dragon could have imagined. A resounding, discordant screech that rippled over the area like a tidal wave. The sound pierced, crawled, and infiltrated. He could hear the brickwork of the building vibrating beneath him, and feel the sound rippling under his skin. Split-second migraines tormented him, intense and agonizing enough to bring tears to his eyes. It was as if someone were running their fingers over the surface of his brain. He fell to his knees, coughing up vomit. How much longer would this go on for? How long had this been going on for? 10 seconds? Maybe more? Out of the corners of his eye, Dragon could see Ruth and Serena, their own bodies locked in similar seizures, as they thrashed and choked on the ground. The massive skeleton hadn't moved since it began screaming, its head angled up towards the sky as the screech rang out. Did that mean it couldn't move while it was using this attack? If that was the case, it would be the only reason they weren't already dead. Slowly, the scream trailed off, and the skeleton began to creak back into motion. Dragon picked himself up as quickly as he could, wiping his mouth with his sleeve and ignoring the twinges of protest from his body. Ruth and Serena did much the same. Serena planting a hand down on the roof to pull out a new sword from the tiles and stone available. That attack had stunned them, but if the enemy didn't have a way to take advantage of that, then it was worthless. Effectively, all it had done was pause the fight. Now that they were back on their feet, all they had to do was continue... Dragon's stomach rumbled, sorry. He reflexively put a hand to his abdomen. It only made sense that he was hungry. They'd been busy for days now, with little opportunity to sit down and have much more than a snack. How long had it been since he'd had a chance to really sink his teeth into something? A burger, at the very least. The opportunity to bite down on a warm bun and meat and feel the sauce pour over his tongue. Just the thought of it was almost making him drool. Uh-oh, did the skeleton infect him with the greed of a beast? They're so hungry. Dragon got the faintest sense that something was wrong, but it didn't really matter right now. Even if that scream had done something like stimulate the parts of the brain that manage hunger, that didn't change just how fucking famished he felt right now. His stomach was so empty it felt like it was going to collapse in on itself, and he was expected to fight in that kind of condition? This was bullshit! Tears of frustration building in his eyes, Dragon thumped his fist against the ground. This kind of reminds me of the beginning of Dungeon Meshi. I love it. The pain was considerable. He hadn't infused his hand, but that in itself was his salvation. That pain made him look down. There was blood running between his injured fingers. Warm, nutritious blood. How could he have been so stupid? He was sitting here crying about the lack of food when he had 5 little sausages sticking out of his... I know this is sort of like a surreal horror, but I can't help but laugh at 5 little sausages. Ripe for the taking. He realized that they were in the middle of a fight, but these were extenuating circumstances. Even if he ate one finger, he could still form a fist with those he had left. Come to think of it, he did most of his fighting with his Gemini shotgun, so did he really even need a fist anyway? If things got a little crazy and he ended up without his arms, he could still fight perfectly well, and as a ranged combatant, he didn't necessarily need feet either, did he? He could just take up a position and fire from a distance. No! The greed of a beast! He can't!
Status condition.
I have a feeling he's gonna see someone else and be like, just let me eat your head. It'll be fine. I need the brain matter. The possibilities only made him drool more, but before he could get to any of that, he had to ease these hunger pains. Slowly, shakily, he lifted his fingers up to his open mouth, just up to the first knuckle, and then he could think about this with a clear head. Anticipation and hunger broiling inside him, Dragon's eyes rolled up into their sockets. Bon appetit! It's like such a fucking JoJo moment. I can hear like the SFX of like a crack as the eyes roll up. Bon appetit! Stop! Just before Dragon could bite down and relieve his hunger, his hand was pulled out of his mouth and slammed forcefully onto the ground. Hot anger flaring through his body, he turned his head to face Ruth, who was restraining him, pinning his other arm behind his back. What the fuck do you think you're doing? He screamed. I'm going to starve to death! It's messing with your head, she forced out through clenched teeth. Snap out of it! Ruth held him down with all her strength, even as her own body twitched. There was a pained, distorted expression on her own face as well. She was doing everything she could not to succumb to her own hunger as well. Did she just have more experience with this? Even if that was the case, it was unreasonable for her to expect him to just sit here and take it. His feral eyes locked onto her neck, at the licorice-like jugular vein pulsing there. Just a quick nibble of that, and no, he couldn't do that. Anything else, but not that. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Does this always make them hungry for body parts, or would they like have an advantage if they just happen to be carrying a bunch of Cheetos around?
A bunch of Cheetos and stuff. They would go to that first.
Awesome. So this basically get this fucking what's the word I'm looking for? Not aetheral space. What are they called? Guardian entity. This ability like gets you super high.
Yeah, it's
You're
got a couple of things. It's got invisibility. It gives you hungry.
Yeah, seriously, this thing's like the killer queen of guardian entities. It's got like fucking 8 abilities.
That's why they give it to the leader.
That's true. Damn it! Ruth hissed, holding Dragon down with all her strength as he thrashed wildly. Stay still! Just stay still! She could feel it too, on the border of her mind. The whispers telling her that, when it came down to it, the thing she was holding down was just a big human-shaped steak. For now, she could push it down, throw that aimless hunger away. But she wouldn't be able to do that forever. Before she fully gave in to this impulse, she needed to take this thing down. But she couldn't do it alone. Dragon! She cried. Snap out of it! It was no use. His thrashing didn't lessen in the slightest. Her eyes flicked over to Bruno and Serena, still stuck on their hands and knees. They weren't moving at all, but they also weren't trying to eat themselves. Did they have some way of holding this thing at bay, too? I imagine having, like, 2 minds and 1 body is a little helpful with this.
It's not really mentioned here what they're doing. It's like switching out rapidly like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. Based. How to give yourself a mental illness / third personality. Dragon, she whispered.
My name's Bowley.
My name's Tito, and I manifest sausages with my aether. Little sausages. Dragon, she whispered, helplessness surrounding her like an old familiar cage. Please. What replied was not Dragon, but a voice from the sky. It is no use, it said. There isn't a person in the entire world who can overcome their own mind. Ruth looked up. Oh god, I don't know if I have the voice today to do Akamanto. Do you want to voice Akamanto for me?
His changed when the mask came off, though. He became less.
Oh yeah, now he's like this.
Maybe
They're floating arrogantly.
Like that.
Now he's like this.
Yeah, exactly.
There, floating arrogantly in the sky, was the bastard that could only be Akamanto, looking down at them dismissively. He seemed to have lost his mask, revealing a wrinkled face and electric blue eyes. But Ruth didn't know anyone else who could just float around like that. His cloak billowed around him as he hovered over the skeleton, like a devil on its shoulder. I'm so sorry. Oh my god. She spat on the ground, still holding on to Dragon with all her strength. You don't see me or Serena eating ourselves. That attack got 1 out of 3. Not exactly something to be all smug about. Akamanto smiled thinly, even as he completely ignored her statement. Instead, why isn't he just throwing knives at them if Serena and Bruno aren't moving? Like, now is the time to attack Akamanto,
Ruth
not
can
smile
move
thinly.
fine,
She can move through the, yeah, but if she moves away, Dragon will eat himself. This is the perfect time to attack.
Well, let's see what he will.
Instead, it looked towards the skeleton, Gashido Kuro. It was still twitching back to life, pulling itself back together after that presumably draining attack. Garth is something of a fool, he said dryly. He didn't truly understand how to use Entity Override. The target of it will do exactly as you ask, only as you ask it. When it comes to an idiotic beast like this, all you'll get is idiocy. Allow me to demonstrate a more effective means of utilizing it. He took a deep breath, clearing his throat. Entity Override, Gashido Kuro, he said. Continually attack the outsider girl with the red hair, without stopping to rest or defend yourself until the target is eliminated. Once that is done, eliminate the outsider boy with the silver hair. Leave the blonde brat over there alive. I'll need one of them breathing so that I can extract Arbisher's location. Begin executing these orders when I snap my fingers. Now, that sounds much more efficient, doesn't it? He raised his hand, fingers poised to snap, but his body blotting out the sun and casting a long and deep shadow. Ruth glared murderously, unable to do anything but hold the writhing Dragon down. Let's begin, shall we? Akamanto said. The final round? His fingers began to brush against each other and... I beat shotgun! Pew! Akamanto's hand exploded into gore, blood and bone raining down below. Oh my god, the music's coming in. The entity screamed. Skipper, like the smoke from his fingers, he's like, looks like I showed up just in time. And then it's like the 3 triangles coming in of like Serena, Ruth, and Dragon. They're like, Skipper!
That voice, no, it doesn't like, even though it's really obvious who it is, it doesn't reveal it. But it's like, I know that voice.
It can't be! The entity screamed, holding his demolished wrist tight as he whirled around in the air to face his opponent. Ruth had thought she'd known only one person who could float around like that, but apparently she'd been wrong. Skipper hovered higher up in the air, holding his palms downward as a continuous stream of heartbeat shotguns kept him aloft. He grinned cockily as he regarded the guardian entity below him. Hey, pal! What's the big idea? He asked. We were in the middle of a fight, and you go and run off after one little explosion? It took me hours to figure out where I'd ended up. Dick move, man. Seriously. Oh, I forgot how much I missed Skipper's voice. Oh, hang on. Do you need me to pause? I'll pause.
I'm relaxed about that.
No problem. Akamanto growled furiously, gripping its throwing knives between the knuckles of its remaining hand. The stump of the other dissipated into aether. Imbecile! I'll kill you myself! The entity hurled the knives, lunging at Skipper in a dogfight of sound blasts and silver blades. Within a few seconds, they were just green and red-blue streaks lancing through the air above the cathedral. Holy shit, they can make a computer! But the problem still wasn't solved. He still had his other hand, and he'd snap his hands at any moment. And
He'd snap his hands, snap his fingers.
he like fucking bends his hand unnaturally in half. He could snap his fingers at any moment, and there still wasn't anything Ruth could do but hold down Dragon. She could try knocking him out, maybe, but he still had his aether. Who knew how long that'd take? But if she didn't do something, they'd both be killed by Gashido Kuro. Damn it, damn it, damn it! What's the problem? Asked Lily Arbisher, right next to her ear. Ruth almost jumped out of her skin. 1 second it had been just her and Jagan. The next, Lily Aubuchard had appeared right next to them, kneeling on the ground. She looked different, too. Her hair scorched white, her eyes suddenly glowing with the electricity that ran throughout her entire body. This day had been going on long enough that Ruth wasn't going to question things anymore. I'm going to popcorn it to you.
Look, she grunted, you get hurt when you're using the lightning stuff, right? Slowly, Lily blinked as if she were tuning into this conversation for a long way away. Hmm? Oh yeah, I guess I did. Then, she hesitated. Then can you just hold Dragon down for me? I need to fight.
She simply doesn't notice pain anymore.
She winced as an explosion of sound rang out not far away, and a dozen ricocheted throwing knives embedded themselves into the roof. They were wasting time. Hold him down, Lily cocked her head. Yeah, okay. Without missing a beat, she took over for Ruth, restraining Dragon with surprising strength. As she did, Ruth stood back up and stepped forward, grimly manifesting her claws as she stared up at the massive black skeleton. It finally come back into full motion, snapping its jaws open in a silent roar that sent Ruth's long red hair flowing back.
Oh, that's a dope visual. that's actually so cool. Just like the slow motion, no sound, no music, like the hair, the wind around her. Oh, that's a cool visual.
Behind her, Dragon's thrashing suddenly ceased as he realised exactly what she intended to do. Ruth, he gasped, words strained to form. Don't, we couldn't beat it with 3 of us. You'll die. Ruth blamed down the last of her feet.
Oh.
I got it.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to help.
Then she turned back and offered him a cocky grin. Nah, she said. It's fine. I'm strong. Snap. Gashadukro lunged and Ruth danced.
I gotta say, with this whole hunger thing, you missed a real opportunity for Ruth to be like, man, I want a cheeseburger for the ultimate callback. It would have been so good.
I wanted a burger.
Dragon's like, man, I want a cheeseburger. Oh, look, 5 little
Ruth
sausages.
Talking about the burger.
That's so good.
The archivist looked up at Dragon's solution. I have to say, he said, hand on his chin, this doesn't seem like the most efficient way to deal with things. Feel free to speak up if you've got a better idea, Dragon replied. If I had a better idea, so would you. Well, there you go. The shape of Dragon's archive had been altered somewhat to account for the current situation. Right now, the snow-white landscape consisted of 4 bookcase towers rising up above a layer of clouds, and great marble chains ran from the corners of each tower, collectively binding the entity between.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's like a Persona visual. I dig that.
Dragon's hunger thrashed and roared within its bindings, a great vortex of meat and teeth, snapping and gnashing at empty air. Every few seconds, the chain's binding would be shredded away to nothing, only to be replaced by new bindings that lashed out fully formed from the towers. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would hold for now. Well, the archivist turned from his sitting position on the balcony to face Dragon. What next? What do you do once that skeleton slaps Ruth down like a basketball?
Wait, is this a real thing? I thought you were just describing his archive. Did he, actually trap it?
Well, in his archive.
I'm confused. So it's not, actually restrained. That's just how he's visualizing it.
Well, yeah, this is sort of the archive is not like a physical place. It's just, his mind.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Dragon shook his head. It won't. Huh? The archivist didn't seem impressed. Ruth said she'd win, so she'll win, Dragon declared, without the slightest trace of doubt in his voice. I trust her to make good on that. The archivist rolled his eyes, but a smile played across his lips all the same. Well, if you say so, I guess. Dragon opened his eyes. He was still being held down on the ground, Lily's immutable grip restraining him without much visible effort at all. She had clearly become much stronger since the last time he'd seen her, and the electricity running along her body was the unmistakable power of her guardian entity. Had they somehow merged, become one organism? If that was the case, he had a single nasty plan for how they could all get out of this alive. Lily, he forced out, you trust me? She blinked placidly. Suppose so, why? I have a plan. Listen closely. I'll pop
Oh shit, flashback. Holy shit, here we go. 3 years ago, Ruth panted heavily, trying to ignore the tremors running through her body as she knelt in the wreckage of the dining room. Splinters of wood and porcelain littered the chamber. The windows were smashed beyond repair, and the walls and floors were scoured with copious claw marks. None of this carnage, however, even compared to the bed of gore beneath Ruth Blaine. Not an inch of identifiable human remained. Admiral Zed Barrett had been pulped, shredded, and pulverized until he had become but this, an incoherent pile of scattered flesh, blood, and bone. What little of him wasn't rotting on the floor, instead clung to and dripped from Ruth's skeletal claws, strands of spare muscle clinging to the blades. She'd killed them all. Right after waking up for interrogation, she'd killed them all. Every single soldier in this place. None of them she'd destroyed to this degree, but she'd killed them. She'd beheaded and bisected and disemboweled. She'd strangled and beaten and ripped out throats. She'd killed. She'd killed! Even this man, who seemed so invincible, so immutable, she'd killed! It has taken hours of fighting, of dodging and parrying his liquid metal, but in the end she'd pried open his emperor set and tore him apart. There hadn't been any last words. Her fury hadn't given any time for that. I have a question.
Yeah.
Because both their armors, recorded, right?
Yeah.
In theory, could she have, recorded his emperor set after defeating him and, taken it as her own?
If she kept the armor and, it wasn't destroyed, she could have done so, but it would have taken just as long as making her own set.
Right. If someone had asked her how long she'd stayed there, staring down at the human wreckage, she would have had no answer. But eventually she stood up and, like an automatic, began to stiffly walk back to the rebel camp. The moon was high in the sky, and Ruth stared up at it as she walked through the jungle. In this state, she would have been easy prey for any paleo beast looking for a meal, but her walk remained undisturbed. Perhaps they could sense that what they were looking at was a fellow predator. The war was over. She'd won. If nothing else, she had that, right? She'd killed that bastard. She had that, didn't she? If nothing else, she had that. She'd have that gratitude to keep her going. The war was over. Even Grave had to admit that, didn't he? She'd forced an abortion of a smile onto her face, the rictus grin of a skeleton. They'd won. Oh, they'd won. She reached the camp. Little of the structures remained but cinders, smoldering sparks flickering mockingly on the ground, like the landing lights for a demon. Smoke drifted up towards the sky, choking the tree line. Every now and then it would pass over the moon, causing it to blink like a great eye. But that was nothing. In the center of the clearing, illuminated by the sparks and the moon, was a pile of man. Corpses, at least 100 of them, were stacked on top of each other in a massive hill. Some burned, some shot, some stabbed, but all dead. Faces locked into permanent pain and anguish, blood slowly cascading down like a curtain. She recognized each of those faces. How could she not? These were the rebels she'd spent her life with. There was Oleg, one of his eyes blasted out by plasma. There was Rupert, his heart gouged out by a blade. His was the only face that had managed to conceal the agony. And there, at the top, dumped like a piece of garbage, was Robin. Ruth couldn't even bear to look at her. For the second time, Ruth fell to her knees. She'd barely survived the first anguish, but she knew that this was the death blow. Who could look at this and not break completely? These people are my victims, she mutely realized. I killed them. I killed. A sickly, discordant laugh poured out of her throat as she clutched herself tight. It went from giggle to laughter to cackling, echoing through the empty jungle like vile music, before trailing off. That was when it became screaming. She screamed for so long, it felt as if her throat would explode inside her mouth, choking her to death. Perhaps that was what she was hoping for, kneeling there with tears of pain and sorrow flowing down her cheeks. Perhaps if she just screamed just a bit longer, she'd... A gentle hand landed on her shoulder. "Hey," Skipper said. Present day. Popcorn.
Ruth flowed through battle like a needle through thread. She leapt through a hand swipe, her body narrowly flying between two of the hostile fingers. She slid under an attempted stomp, the heel of the great foot missing her by mere inches. She jumped away from a vicious bite, ricocheting off flying debris like a pinball and landing on the ground. She stepped out the way of an unruly punch, not even flinching as the portion of wall she'd been next to was utterly demolished. Akamanto's orders have been effective at making this Gashadukuro more hostile, but they've ruined what semblance of strategy had been present. Its attacks have become simple, predictable, as it abandoned what little it had that made it more than a mere beast. No offence, the same mistake I made. Ruth flowed through the battle like water. The attacks of Gashadokuro grew more desperate and furious as it was tired out. That was what she wanted. Behind her and above, the grand spire of the cathedral exploded outwards, rubble raining down as something shot up and out from within the cathedral, a great shooting star rising up into the sky at escape velocity.
No! The ship! No!
Ruth didn't
You bastard!
thought. It wasn't relevant right now. Neither did the skeleton. It simply reared up, pointing its head towards the sky and unhinged its jaw. Ugh. I have won. Ruth leapt forward, weaving through fragments of falling rubble and overpowering the wind and rain that battered against her. Her claws trailed sparks behind her, making her look like a streak of flame that shot across the roof. Her claws dug deep, and with them she hurled a chunk of rubble into the air ahead of her, and then, moving faster than her own projectile, she leapt up, kicked off it, and shot towards the head of Gashadokuro. No, towards the neck. If this thing looks like a human, then she'd kill it like a human. With the slightest swipe of her claws, Ruth Blaine sliced through Glashadokuro's jugular as the two of them crossed paths, not with the fury of a beast, but the precision of a surgeon. Blood flowed forth freely.
These streets are about to run red, literally. Holy shit.
I'll popcorn this bit to you again, because I'll read through this bit.
Alright, sure, hang on. Endenlos raged through the skies. Not a second passed where he didn't let loose a flurry of throwing knives, filling the air with so many projectiles that there was no possible way his opponent could dodge them. And yet, this infuriating man kept dodging them, bending his body at illogical angles and deflecting the knives that still came too close with blasts of sound. No matter what Los did, he couldn't touch the bastard! If knives wouldn't do it, then Endenlos had other projectiles in stock. Los paused as hovering over the wreckage of the central spire, blasted by the launch of the escape pod, and spread his cloak wide, concentrating his aether into his upper torso. He could feel it, even now, creatures struggling to escape the cage of his consciousness. Oh my god, because he's a Kajidin, he put them all in his mind palace.
Exactly.
His enemy stopped his fight as well, brow furrowing as he clearly tried to figure out just what this attack was. Open! Los growled. O Earth! Countless guardian entity rejects poured forth from his body, all of them equipped for flight. As one, the massive winged monstrosities hurtled towards the nearest source of food, this damnable man, like a swarm of rabid bats. They were fast. Within seconds, the man had been trapped in a vortex of flying beasts, the only sounds audible from within being the screeching of the failures and the endless blast of sounds. Oh, sorry, blast of bass. Blasts of bass. No doubt that man would survive this. He'd proven himself adept enough not to be bested by mere animals, but it would buy the time Los needed to get Albrecht's location out of that blonde brat. A smile of imminent victory on his lips, he turned towards the roof below, just in time to see Gashadokuro dissipate into nothing. Oh, I thought the blood was gonna fall on him and slam him to the ground.
No,
just in time to just in time to see the red-haired outsider standing over its corpse. Just in time to catch the projectile, a chunk of debris the Kajnan boy had shot at him. This young man's face was twisted in concentration. Doubtless he was on the verge of giving in to his hunger once more. Los looked Wait, it didn't end after Gashadokuro died? Oh, fucking rip.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna, not refresh itself, but it's gonna stick around for a little bit.
Los looked mutely down at the smoking piece of stone in his palm. It was weak, barely strong enough to bruise one such as he. But even so, it truly felt like he was about to burst a blood vessel. Insect! He screamed. In an instant of monstrous speed, Los was upon the brat, his throwing knife raised high, ready to spear through this little shit's insolent skull. If Gashadokuro had been insufficient, he'd just do this himself. Everyone else had proven insufficient, so what was one more simple and supremely satisfying task? Arms shining with red and blue aether, Los went to hurl his knife. But Gemini whirled! In front of the bat, in front of Los's target, a figure manifested from aether. What was unmistakably the form of Lily Arbisher appeared, flesh and bone weaving into existence. But that light, the glow of that holy electricity! His mind understood he was looking at the one he hated more than anything. But his body, his eyes, all they could see was the divine light of their creator. Endenlos hesitated. just for a second, and the knife refused to leave his hand. "Oh, Mother," he thought, a curious peace in his heart. "Why couldn't I have just died with you, back then?" The blast of lightning that struck him was greater than any that the planet had ever seen before, piercing both his body and the clouds above him as it ripped him apart, as electricity scoured his body, and Los burnt away like a piece of flaming paper, the scorched confetti of his life silently scattering to the winds. All that remained were 2 scraps of cloak, a patch of blue and a patch of red. Then they blew away too, and both amounted to nothing. The rain stopped. That chapter fucking banged, dude.
Thank you.
The flashbacks were on point. The action was amazing. I could feel the emotion in the characters. It really did feel like something straight out of like a anime episode in a good way. It was like structured so well. And I have to say, you really turned up your visualization and like imagery game on this one. There were some really cool visuals that are really dope. I would still like to see you use more senses a bit more, like with sounds and smells, but like, I have nothing to complain about. This chapter was fucking awesome. Good shit.
Thank you, I'm glad you liked it.
Very good, Tan. I'm like genuinely impressed. Like, I already know you're a good author, but then you put out something like this and it's just like, you raise the bar even higher. It's so good. Oh, man. Anyway, that's enough sucking your cock now. What did you guys think of the chapter? Let us know in the comments. If you liked it, leave a review on Royal Road. Tell your friends about the series.
It makes
yes, we need to get this
review. Please, if you like it, I beg of you, leave a review.
and share it with your friends. We want to get it on trending for Royal Road if possible, and then it can blow up on merit alone because it's so freaking good.
And if you
oh my god,
chapter,
it's so good.
Maybe come back for the finale later this week of this arc.
Yeah, that's right, there's one chapter left, guys. Are you ready? The greed of a human. The greed of a Gashadokuro. Oh man, I want to see some art of this now. Just anything from this chapter would be so dope as fan art.
Nothing wrong, 2021.
He did everything wrong, dude. Just because he's sad doesn't like justify him being the worst ever. But that was I could feel that line. That was like a total like Demon Slayer moment where he was just like, "Oh, please," and it's like I could see him like flashing as a little child with the Gene Tyrant playing with him, like the white light surrounding them as the electricity takes over his body.
Well, yeah, he was a bad person.
He was, but that doesn't mean we can't feel a crumb of pity. But
it was a crumb.
A crumb of pity. Just a crumb. Wait, is it called Demon Slayer? I forgot the name of the series.
Yes, Demon Slayer.
Okay. Man! Oh, okay, alright. I gotta end the episode or I won't shut the fuck up now. See you guys next time. Bye!
Bye!